Hi,
Hi,
Christopher.
Christopher.
Can you hear me well?
Can you hear me?
I can hear you perfectly. I see more the light than your face.
Can you hear me?
Perfect. And
Okay.
the connection is good.
How you doing?
I'm good. I just jumped on, so I'm going to do a little intro before we
Okay.
start talking. So today we're going to talk about ancient Japanese technique that can be used to make modern furniture. And today we're going to discuss with Christopher Miano, who is a luxury furniture maker based in New York. The workshop is in New Jersey. And what's really interesting for me in Christopher's work is not only that it's high end, that it's using only the best materials, but also he combines those old Japanese techniques. So today we're going to see a few of those, and a little not name dropping around Christopher. He studied at Parsons in New York, and then he was accepted to the Royal Danish Academy of Fine Arts in Copenhagen. And his pieces can be found in all the nice areas of New York, including on the top of the World Trade Center. So you mostly use superior materials and are specialized in hand craftsmanship. So typically the materials you're going to use are Italian marble, like the Carrara marble, high-end woods, or very refined metals, specifically bronze. You like bronze a lot. Today we're going to narrow down your furniture making to specifically the use of wood and the Japanese techniques, as I mentioned previously. So I wanted to jump in, Christopher, and talk a little bit about an aspect you mentioned to me, which is pretty fascinating. It's the use of your tools to start with. I'm all about luxury combined with intention in order to do something not that's fancy and pricey, but cold and detached, but the intentionality you put in what you make. And I think that's what's really interesting about your work. So I have a picture here. So there's no picture sharing on Instagram anymore, so I'm going to have to show you my screen like it's 1995. But typically, this is Christopher in his workshop with his tools. So I know a little bit about the process of Japanese techniques where people are not supposed to use glue or electrical tools or anything like that. Do you want to tell us a little bit about how you prepare with your tools, what tools you use in order to make the furniture you make?
Yeah, so I definitely use some glue, but you know, the purpose of those butterfly keys is like a form and function for the tabletops that we're making. So I have an old set of chisels that I found that we maintain with sharpening stones, and every single time before we dive into a tabletop, we make sure that everything is like razor sharp so that we get, you know, kind of a perfect fine line when we're hand chiseling a lot of those mortises for the Japanese joinery. I have all of my tools kind of like lined up over here. I'm just in my studio now. So
sure, can you show us?
Yeah, so I basically use these whetstones that are up here, and go through the process of, you know, chiseling, like sharpening all of the chisels. So it's kind of like a 4-step process. These are, I don't know if you want me to go into detail of sharpening the chisels, but it's, you know, kind of a very tedious process that I try to do every single time before we inlay any of those butterfly keys. But traditionally, a lot of people use hardwood for them. I water jet cut those out of solid bronze. So there's kind of no room for error when you're putting them in like a Lego piece.
I wanted to talk about
Yeah.
the bow ties right afterwards, but you mentioned something to me where you said it was the Zen technique that you use for the preparation of your tool. And you mentioned that the intention you put before you start actually building the furniture is very important, because if you're not in the right mindset, you mentioned to me, if you do one wrong move, then that's it. You have to start from scratch, and there's no, like, it can't really be corrected.
Yeah, so when you're working on a tabletop surface, you kind of only have one opportunity to get it right. So if I'm not in the best headspace, I'll kind of save it for another day. Just because, you know, you're basically working with a chisel and a hammer and your tabletop surface, which is something that you can't cover up if you make a mistake. So, you know, it could take up to 60 hours just doing the Japanese joinery throughout a tabletop. So, you know, it's something that happens over a period of a week, finding the right location so that it's going to look, you know, its best, and just kind of going through the process of figuring out what is, you know, too much or what is the right amount of joinery to put in. So some clients like when a table is kind of riddled with joinery because it becomes more of like an art piece than a dining room table. And then other clients could be more specific about only wanting, you know, 3 butterflies or like a very subtle accent for the tabletop. So I would say it's similar to like a jewelry process when you're going through that. You know, every swing of the hammer kind of counts, and just to make sure that you do it correctly is, you know, the right mindset for me is pretty important when I'm doing that.
Okay. I wanted to talk about the very impressive process that you probably get a lot of attention with, a lot of press about, the sugi ban, or the charred wood, which is using an ancient Japanese technique that preserves wood by charring the surface of the wood, and you use a blowtorch for that. Do you want to tell us a little bit about it? I'll show a few videos of you doing that because it's so beautiful.
Yeah, it's definitely more of a stress release to light a piece of furniture on fire. I love the texture that we get from it. It's a technique that's been around for hundreds of years, you know, originally used on like cedar fences in Japan. And, you know, knowing when to stop is really important because you start to deform the piece of furniture from superheating the glue joints. It wants to kind of cup up. So just like understanding the process and doing it several times it's taken me a while to figure out like when is the right stopping point and the right finish to use on that to kind of lock everything in. So we do that upstairs on the roof at the shop. Oh yeah, those are some of the stools that we're making.
And you told me that there's something, I'm going to show an up-close picture, but you told me that what's different about the way you do it versus other people is that people just apply that, I mean, char it to the point to have that burnt surface, but you go one step further where you like to have that alligator skin finish, like you can see on the stool right here.
Yeah, so it's like crackling like a campfire, basically. So it's a little tricky because if you go any further than that, you know, those scales will start to flake off and come off. So being able to lock in that carbon is really important, especially as a seating device, which gets a lot of abuse. So, sorry, can you hear me?
Me, yeah, I can hear you.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I don't have any of that work right now to show. We're kind of like in the middle of making some lighting with that similar technique. Sorry, I'm getting
I'm going to show the video of you on the roof because I think it's just, I have 2 of them. Let me show you the first one. I'm going to show you it's yours, but show the people watching the first one. So it is loud, and it's pretty impressive.
and it's a lot of fun.
And the view on your rooftop is unbelievable. And this is a dining room.
That one
so
maybe we shouldn't show.
This one, no? Okay.
That was a first trial inside of the shop. I probably shouldn't have been doing that inside of the shop.
Okay. We are taking this off.
Sorry.
We don't want to get you in trouble, but we get the idea. And what's amazing with your workshop is you have a rooftop, because I guess it's easier to do that when you're outdoors. Where does your, I'm obsessed with fire. I'm not sure why. Do you think your taming of fire, that passion of yours that you have, comes maybe from the fact that your dad was a firefighter?
I definitely think that might have some to do with it. I mean, we try to be as careful as possible. So when we go up there with a propane tank and a blowtorch, I always bring, fire extinguishers and stuff like that. But I've been asked that question before, and I definitely think that it has some inspiration behind it. And yeah, I'm just, taking the right safety measures is pretty important when you're doing that. So always keeping that in mind. But it is, it's definitely one of my favorite processes that we're doing in-house. We have a little bit of a new collection that is a little more whimsical, and I would say that that's pretty barbaric. So just trying to explore different techniques and seeing what sticks or what I really enjoy doing.
I saw that you do that on dining tables and stools. You can basically do it to anything that's made out of wood. Would you be able to do it on a dresser? Is there any utility on doing it on a dresser?
So we have a dining room chair, the stools, a coffee table. We did a dining room table. We build everything out of solid lumber, so you can't do that to a plywood kind of box. But if we were to build a dresser out of solid oak, it's certainly possible to do that. Something I've definitely sketched out a few times, but the thing with that is it starts to throw everything out of square. So with a dresser, when you have mechanics to rely on a drawer going in and coming out,
yeah,
it's definitely a challenging process to try to do on a piece of furniture like that. But we've been considering making, panels that we can then clad over something, but I really like to char the actual piece itself. So it would be kind of like faking it a little bit. And I haven't tried to do that yet, or not sure if I want to, but
what
I
about
wish I can show you the shop, because it's pretty gray out today, but
yeah, it's a rainy, cloudy day for us.
We're working on some new lighting
That's
right now.
Swingle chandelier that you make.
Yeah, and a few of the tabletop lights. So that's what we're doing right now.
And I wanted to ask you, Christopher, about the finish you put on top of the charred woods, because you finish it with oil, right?
Yeah, so we were, I was first using a natural tung oil that solidifies over the course of a week by putting multiple applications on it. So it took me a long time to figure out that process. We did a review with Fine Woodworking magazine, going through that finishing process, which is kind of always changing based on what the application is for. That application worked great for the stool, but when we wanted to do a dining room table, I had to change it a little bit, because that's something that gets a lot of abuse when you're eating on. So we have more of an industrial process for dining room surfaces or coffee tables, but for the most part, it's a natural oil that we build up, over the course of a week and a half. But the process of finishing is its own art in itself, just to get that right. And trying to do that in such a dusty environment sometimes is a little complicated, because a lot of finishing processes, can take more time than physically building the object. So
I'm sure the workshop is probably making it messy, cleaning it, making it messy, cleaning it over and over again, right?
Yeah, it's actually pretty clean right now, but we're in the process of finishing a few pieces. These lights in particular, a bench that we're prototyping. So towards the end of the week, it becomes more of a finishing shop in here.
Okay. I wanted to talk about our third point. So our first point was you preparing the tools. The second point was the charred wood technique. And the third technique that actually, I don't know if we can say it's Japanese, you'll correct me, but you were inspired by George Nakashima, who is from Japanese parents, but was born in the US. And he was a very influential architect, furniture maker, wood maker of the 20th century. He almost lived throughout the whole 20th century. And his signature was to put little butterflies, as we discussed a little bit earlier, bronze pieces in the shape of a butterfly, where it would stop the cracking of the wood slab, but also be a decor element.
Right.
Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, I feel like it's a visual reference is probably better. So this is our slab pile right now of like future dining room tables, and just like positioning where some of those might go to stop this crack from splitting over time.
Mm-hmm.
I have our like stockpile of butterfly keys that we keep on hand here. So a lot of these are, cast bronze. Once we polish them up, they're more shiny, like you could see on the website. And then a few other ones in like maple, walnut, etc. So they're pretty thick because they go really deep inside of the tabletop surface to allow them to stop spreading. But sometimes like a contrast like that could be really nice. But yeah, we have a few slabs here. So I always keep slabs on deck because we used to make a lot of these dining room tables. I've kind of shifted a little bit to doing something more like add to cart. But I mean, we talked through the process already about how they go in.
I want to show 2 videos of you, one carving the wood for the shape and the other one putting the butterfly in so people kind of understand better the process. So here you are carving the wood to put the shape of the butterfly that's going to be made out of bronze. Is there a reason why it's a butterfly shape? Is it just aesthetic reasons, or it's really because that shape is better? Wait, sorry.
It's okay.
It's funny. Nice to hear the sound too.
So the way it's designed, like a bow tie basically stops it from pulling apart. So, there's so many different names for this. A butterfly key, a Dutchman. But the reason why it's shaped like this is to, basically go inside, interlock, and the crack is going to want to split open. So it stops that from happening from these side walls being, wider than the center of it. So it is a bit of form and function. I mean, I love the way that they look, but they are, designed for that reason.
Yeah, and what's really interesting is that you turn the imperfection into an aesthetic choice. What could have been like something like we have to fix it. It's like, no, we're going to keep that split and put something on top of it to accentuate that split and make it a statement almost. I want to talk about the live edge dining table that you made for a residential project. I just want to show a picture of it so we can see what the bow tie looks like on a large scale. So this is the table, and we can see here the bow ties covering the wood splitting, and you did a bench that goes with it. The bench is attached to it, or it's separated?
No, the bench is separate.
Okay. And then
so those are all solid bronze.
And then for the close-up, it really looks like jewelry. It's so beautiful. And for that table, you charred the edges, correct?
Yeah, so they are black from the carbon. I basically just take a small torch And, after removing the bark, I char it and then hit it with a steel brush to break off any of the carbon and finish that. And it just gives the table a really nice contrast from a side profile. That's something that I do quite often on most of my live edge dining room tables. Yeah, that one went to Bond Street. That was one of the first tables that we made in the studio. And the bronze base was all fabricated in-house too, with a brush finish to match the contrast of the brushed bronze on the top. So it really paired well, and that's like one of my favorite tables that we've built to date. Yeah, that was a special piece.
Amazing. It's beautiful.
Thanks.
I have a couple questions for you on more the creative process. Besides the tools that you use for the furniture making, which are the chisels you showed us, and I'm sure a lot of the other tools that we haven't seen. What are the mental tools that you think you need to get to that level of perfection and detail in the pieces you make?
I mean, so everything that kind of goes out of the studio, I have to be 100% happy with the work that I'm producing to give to somebody else. So I don't know if would say I'm a perfectionist, but if I'm going to try something or teach myself something, I definitely want to understand it fully. YouTube is great for teaching yourself things, as I'm sure everybody knows, and I've taught myself quite a lot about some of the woodworking that we're doing in here that I didn't necessarily learn in school. But yeah, I mean, it's definitely, has its perks to build everything under one roof and have quality checks along the way, so that that this is exactly what you want to be sending out, putting your name on. So that's really important to me in operating my own studio. We have a small studio, so there's not hundreds of people working here. So being involved in every single process is something that I really enjoy. So
do you think that working on those pieces taught you patience, or you were already a patient person, or are you still impatient? Because when I see you with that level of detail and I see you build those, I'm like, the level of patience that is required to do this is outstanding.
We generally have lead times of like 4 to 5 weeks to make a dining room table.
Which is not a lot.
And if it were to take longer than that, I don't think I would be doing this, because I wouldn't want to spend so much time making one project. So, a lot of other studios that are friends of mine that are maybe backed up, they have longer lead times, 10 to 12 weeks. So I think we have a lot of time to spend. It's not like we're rushing through everything. And so going back to your point, being in the right headspace and just having this task at hand and executing it perfectly is maybe more of a matter of luck than a matter of patience. But yeah, I mean, I don't know if I'm like the most patient person, but when you love what you do, I guess it's kind of all relative. But
makes sense. Thank you so much, Christopher. I want to show two last pictures. One of you charring on the rooftop of the workshop you're currently in. So this picture is unbelievable because you have the New York skyline in the back, the sunny sky of New York, and then your blowtorch and the stool. And then I wanted to show the picture of your workshop, because I'm thinking about the view you must have every evening when you leave, when sun sets.
Yeah, it's pretty special.
What is that, the Empire State Building?
Yep, yeah.
Not too bad.
That's half of the shop, yeah. I know that's something that I can't seem to give up in this space, is that view, but it's definitely, you know, a creative place to be making all of this stuff. So I'm pretty fortunate to have that view. We've been here for 7 years in the same studio, so but we're certainly expanding and do need a bigger footprint eventually. So I might have to give that up eventually, but.
Okay. You mentioned luck a lot, but I'm sure it's a combination of your talent and hard work. It doesn't happen all by
Right.
accident, out of thin air. So, so we have a question. Do you guys attend the furniture market in High Point? That's in North Carolina. I'm not. Are you going, Christopher? I think it's happening next week.
No, I won't be there. We did the ICFF for the first time last year with our like squiggle collection, and that was really successful, but I'm not sure if I would do a show like that again. We were thinking about doing Field and Supply, that's upstate, so we might be there, but have to look into the applications and register for that.
Okay, so where can people find your work? Obviously, you're tagged on my post. Your handle is Cam Design
Co. Yeah, Cam Design Co.
Co.
That's my website, camdesignco.com. We have our Charred collection on view at the Future Perfect, and we have a few of our marble pieces that we're doing at Teleste Factory in Chelsea. So basically online, or, you know, come to the studio or check out some of the galleries that represent the work.
Okay, perfect. And you also, on your website, you have an e-shop. Do you sell on there directly, or it's just for display?
No, we do. We have a shop tab. A lot of people will DM me and ask about work, so that's totally fine. We're always kind of prototyping new work and thinking ahead for, you know, next season. So I'm pretty excited about a few things that I've been sketching up, and the whole like chandelier thing keeps expanding and expanding. But I definitely want to break into some more lighting designs, so we'll see where that goes.
Okay, yeah, because the new line you're doing is very modern, and it's called the Squiggle collection, which is not combined with Japanese techniques, but it's very modern, very new, very different. So guys, I would definitely recommend you to check that out. And I think that's it. Did you want to add anything, Christopher?
No, I think we covered a lot of it.
Okay, perfect.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Thank you so much.
Okay.
See you soon.
All right,
Bye.
take care. Bye.